Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Weaver here in the Blue and Yellow Kitchen where cooking meets culture, and my guest today is Amy Zitelman. Hi Amy, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
Good, and Amy is the author of a brand new book called The Tahini Table, and Amy is also the co-founder and CEO of a company called Soom Foods, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So tell us why tahini. Let's start there. What is tahini? Why a cookbook about tahini? And why are you involved in tahini? Let's go there.
So let's start with what is tahini. Tahini is an ingredient that's very popular in Middle Eastern cuisine, but also cross-culturally. It's made from 100% roasted and pressed sesame seeds. So I like to describe it as thicker than peanut butter and thinner than olive oil, but can be used for both and everything in between. So it's a very versatile ingredient for savory and sweet dishes. And it's also extremely delicious, depending on the source of the seeds, and also nutritious. Sesame is one of the best non-animal sources of protein, calcium, and iron. And it's very rich in vitamins and minerals. And so I love the ingredient because of its health benefits and versatility. It makes cooking for me very joyous. But the reason why I'm in a tahini company is actually because of my middle sister, Jackie, who lives in Israel and ended up marrying a tahini expert. So we started our company at this point almost 8 years ago, selling tahini and making it a more familiar and appreciated pantry item in the American market.
That's great. I can tell you've done a few of these interviews because that was so succinct and excellent. So that was awesome. And the other thing I wanted to note for my migraine folks is that tahini is migraine friendly because it's made from seeds. So,
I believe that the magnesium in it, correct? Is
yes.
Really good. Is it magnesium that's a good help for migraines?
Yep, magnesium is very helpful for migraines. So yeah, so it's magnesium rich. And so if you are needing to swap out a nut butter, when you're on my plan, tahini would be a great source. So I have a jar of Amy's tahini here and also a jar of Trader Joe's tahini. So you can buy the tahini wherever. Of course, Amy would love it if you would check out her website. But that's not the purpose of this today, is really to talk about her beautiful book. So, and tell us about the kind of cake that inspired this whole journey of tahini, because I understand you were with some friends or family and someone brought a cake that had tahini as an ingredient, and that kind of sparked your idea about this.
Yeah, so Israeli culture, like a lot of Middle Eastern culture, is very hospitable, right? They're always ready to host and to feast together. Jewish, culture in general loves eating, as many cultures do. And it was actually around the time that my family was meeting my sister's now husband's family, Omri. So the in-laws were meeting. And Omri's mother, Rachela, made a delicious carrot cake, which is one of our mom's favorite types of cakes. And when we tasted it and ate it and asked her how she made it, she shared with us that she substituted some of the vegetable oil for tahini. And that is what really kind of was our aha moment. Like, wow, tahini in a carrot cake? I mean, in the States, people were only using tahini to make hummus if they even knew what it was. And so we were just really inspired and excited by the appreciation for tahini in Israeli and Middle Eastern culture, and to bring that high quality tahini that's good enough to put into a carrot cake to the United States in order to make tahini, a more favored ingredient in the American market. So it's really the carrot cake that started this idea for my sisters and I to start our business, Soom Foods. And we actually share the carrot cake recipe, Rachela's carrot cake recipe, in the dessert chapter of the cookbook, and it's phenomenal. It transfers great to every home kitchen.
That's fantastic. How's the book organized? Because you mentioned there's a dessert chapter. What other chapters will people find in the book?
Yeah, so the first chapter is all about a general tahini kitchen, and so we love to explain some of the spices, complementary products like citrus, oils, even other nuts, salts, sugars, and things like that. That complement tahini when you decide to bring tahini into your home. The next chapter is all sauces. So tahini, probably in its most familiar form in the States and throughout the world, is most traditionally blended into a lemon tahini sauce. And that's by mixing tahini with cold water, lemon juice, garlic, a little bit of cumin, and that whips into a beautiful sauce. You can then blend that sauce with chickpeas, for instance, to make hummus. But we take a variation of sauces from savory all the way to sweet, like caramel sauces. After that, we have a chapter for dips and spreads. Sandwiches, chapter 3 or 4, wherever number we're at, are sandwiches and salads. We also have mains for dinners, a breakfast chapter, and dessert. So it really takes you throughout your entire day, and also just things that you can keep in your fridge in order to assemble a meal really quickly when you're looking to add some substance to your home cooking.
Yeah, so Microwave Boy refers to that as being plunky. So things kind of plunk in his stomach and he feels satisfied. So he's always excited when I'm making something that might have some plunk. And certainly a seed butter like this for sure will do that. And if you're eating plant-based or Mediterranean diet-based, of course, all of these recipes fit into that. The thing that I have found is that the higher quality tahinis are much less bitter, and so that's why you would want to, explore trying out what's available to you and kind of taste test them and see which ones you prefer the most. So what we're making today is your roasted butternut squash. So let me grab that and show you how it looks out of the oven.
Actually prepping that myself for dinner tonight. So you
good.
can see that I have butternut squash behind me too.
So that's how it came out. So I did have to
butternut squash and
leeks.
Jumbo leek on there is how we is the base.
Yes,
to the,
it's the base
the
for this. It's beautiful, and I will just note that. So I probably normally would have prepped it myself or bought the freshly cut pieces. I had to freeze the butternut squash, so it is a little bit softer than it should be. Like it should really be holding its shape a little bit better, but I'm sure it's going to taste absolutely delightful. So that will not affect the flavor at all. And the one note I wanted to give everyone about leeks, this is now limp and because it was in the freezer, but when you buy leeks, I like to slice them lengthwise, but leave the root end together, and then wash all the soil out from in between because it really will cling in there. And then the green parts, the dark green parts, I put in the freezer to add to stock, so that way I'm not wasting any food. And it really adds beautiful flavor to chicken stock or vegetable stock. And then you use usually it's the white and light green part for leeks is what you use. Okay, so Amy's going to walk me through this beautiful tahini sauce. So the basis is and the recipe will be in the comments. The base is a 1/4 cup of the beautiful tahini. And then what else are we putting in there, Amy?
Then we're going to be putting in our citrus. So this is an orange tahini sauce, and we're putting in 5 tablespoons of orange juice. Okay. I prefer fresh squeezed orange juice. We're also going to be adding into here 2 tablespoons of fresh squeezed lemon juice. If you have the time, also zest your fruit before you cut them in half and start to juice them. I highly recommend, as I'm sure you do too, Stephanie, zesting whenever possible, as that adds a lot of depth of flavor into whether it's this recipe or other recipes in the future.
Absolutely. And so this actually is a lemon from my yard. So pretty.
Oh,
where is it?
neat.
Oops. Yeah. Oops. There's we have a Meyer lemon tree that this time of year that's when we get all our fruit. And then I'm adding a clove of garlic. And so I don't always use a garlic press, but for a sauce like this, I really like a garlic press because then you don't have to mince it and you don't end up with somebody getting like a too big piece. And that's one of the times I really do like to use a garlic press because you get the very, very fine garlic in there, and you don't have to kind of.
And this sauce is going to be obviously drizzled over top of the roasted butternut squash. So if you don't have a garlic press, we actually have step-by-step instructions of how to mince garlic. We suggest mincing garlic with sea salt in order to be able for that knife to catch the garlic and get it really fine. But beautiful. I totally agree. Minced garlic is really nice, or a pressed garlic is really nice when you want the sauce to stay super silky.
Fantastic. And then we've got some sea salt and crushed red pepper. And then
1/8 of a teaspoon, just a little bit of crushed red pepper. And based off of the the consistency of the sauce. And so if we want to check it out, there's an option to add in a little bit of cold water. It calls for about 2 tablespoons, although that looks beautiful.
Okay.
But adding in an additional tablespoon of cold water will also loosen it up. If you're making this beforehand and you don't want to add water in now, that's fine, but you will see that a tahini sauce like this seizes in the fridge. So you can always add in a tablespoon of cold water to loosen it up when you're ready to use it again for another meal. Okay,
yeah, I did add just 1 tablespoon because I want to have a really nice thin drizzle. And then our other topping is, I've toasted some chopped walnuts in a little bit of olive oil, which was something I'd never done before. I usually toast them dry, and I really like how crunchy and crispy it made them. And then we're putting in 2 tablespoons of minced parsley. Is that right? For the topping?
Yeah, actually keep that 2 tablespoons of minced parsley in a separate bowl. What you're going to add to that warm dish, if you still have your walnuts warm, is a tablespoon of zatar.
Okay.
Have you ever cooked with zatar before?
I have a little bit, but tell us what it is, because it's something that people who aren't familiar with the Middle Eastern ingredients might not know.
So on page 69, we also have a recipe to make your own zatar at home if you're inspired to make your own spice blend. But zatar is a very popular Middle Eastern spice blend. It's primarily actually sesame seeds, and then it's mixed with dried sumac, dried thyme, and a little bit of dried marjoram. It has a really amazing floral note and also profile. I even love to drizzle this just on a toasted bagel with cream cheese. Zatar goes great on everything.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Thank you for all those ideas. I'm just clearing the counter off so I can bring the make a plate up here. So let me just do that real quick here. Get everything
That's
up.
another reason why we love adding in the olive oil when you're toasting the walnuts, is because it almost helps the zatar get into more of a sauce when you're combining it with the warmed walnuts.
Okay, and so would you at this point, I'm going to plate up just a small amount, not a platter. Would you sprinkling the parsley separately, Amy?
No, so now you'll add the warmed walnuts with the zatar in it into your bowl of broken up parsley, and that will make the topping for the butternut squash. But I totally agree. I only make a small amount of this at a time. It's really best dressed as fresh as possible. So if you want to take a little bit of the roasted vegetables, some of the mixture, which are the walnuts with the zatar and the parsley together, top those together, and then you'll drizzle it with the orange tahini sauce. Okay, great.
So I'm plating over here. So what are some of your favorite recipes in the book, Amy? Do you have some real favorites that you go back to time and again?
Yeah, I mean, this is honestly one of them. It's one of the first recipes that I made for some family, a cousin of mine, and we, just fell so in love with this orange tahini sauce. Like I was talking about, that traditional flavor profile of lemon and tahini, the orange really gives it a nice sweetness that is something that brings me back to some of the more sweet flavor profiles of tahini. But I also have a special dish for those of you that eat meat, is my mom's turmeric tahini chicken. It's a delicious sauce that takes that more traditional lemon tahini sauce, mixes in some turmeric, cumin, and other spices, and then uses that as a marinade on roasted chicken with crispy chickpeas and some red onions. And that's a delicious dish. It can also be made on tofu. It's really a delicious sauce that goes across many bases, no problem. And then I love a very simple recipe, which are tahini sugar cookies. And so it really is a more traditional peanut butter cookie, talking about that substitution of tahini for other nut butters, and also a tahini shortbread cookie, which a lot of Middle Eastern places like to make because it's such a nice complement to coffee or tea. But our tahini sugar cookie is just like a perfect sweet treat that I love to keep in my freezer.
That sounds wonderful. All right, let me show you how this looks. Plated up here. Oops, wrong direction.
Oh, lovely.
It's always a trick.
I like to keep extra sauce on the side too, because I'm a sauce girl and I love to just add extra sauce or eat the sauce with whatever I'm putting the roasted veggies with.
It looks fantastic. I'm going to take a quick taste here. What else would you like us to know about tahini that you haven't mentioned while I'm tasting this?
Yeah, sure. So I really appreciated your mention of using a high quality tahini. We refer to that as premium tahini in the Tahini Table Cookbook. And high quality tahini or premium tahini is made from sesame seeds that come from Ethiopia. So there's a variety of sesame seeds called white humera. And the region of Ethiopia where it grows, it has a very fertile land, is the northwest region, also called the Humera region. And the sesame seeds that grow there are really valued for their qualities for making tahini. So they're extremely plump. They have a great ratio of oil to the rest of the sesame meat. And it really grinds down into some of the most coveted tahini in the world, used by tahini manufacturers all over. So finding tahini where they explain where the sesame seeds come from is one of the big distinctions that our company, Soom Foods, set out to make in the American market. Because similar to coffee or wine, where sesame seeds grow produce a different flavor profile, quality, and consistency. So if you're looking for premium tahini, I would definitely take some time to check out where those sesame seeds are grown.
That's fantastic. The other thing that you sell is a chocolate tahini butter, which I've already eaten the entire jar. I don't think my great boy had a single taste of it. It is unbelievable. And I made myself some banana cupcakes a while back, and I was like, oh, I could just pull these out of the freezer, thaw them in the microwave, spread a little of that chocolate tahini sauce on top, and it's instant frosting. So.
You got it. It really is. I mean, it's just 3 ingredients. It's tahini, powdered pure cane sugar, and cocoa powder. So there's no nuts, no dairy, no added oil in there, especially no palm oil. And it really has just, in my opinion, the perfect balance of chocolate and sesame. It's sweet enough, it's sesame enough. It's really divine. I applaud you for putting it on muffins, because I usually just eat it straight from the jar with a spoon.
Did that as well. Yes, things have been dipped in it. Pretzels have been dipped in it. So yeah, it's really
it's delicious.
Good stuff. So Amy, I want to thank you so much for being here. The Tahini Table, also, I just wanted to showcase the photography is incredible. Absolutely beautiful photography. It's so inspiring. There's so many dishes in here that I want to make and try out. I want to thank you so much for being here today. And finishing off our first season, this is episode 26 of season 1 of the Blue and Yellow Kitchen. So we will be back next year for season 2. You can find the buy link for Amy's book in the comments. You can check out her website, Soom, SOOM, foods.com. And you can follow me at sweavermph. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful holiday season. This would be a great holiday dish, wherever you're cooking and whoever you're cooking for. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Thanks for being here, Amy.
Congratulations. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.